We interviewed 7 ABC presidents who served between 2010 and 2020 about business communication and ABC. We asked them 3 questions. What are some of your major achievements as a business communicator? How has business communication changed since you started working in the field? And how has ABC benefited your career? Here are their answers.
I've been a director of a master program in multilingual business communication at Ghent University for almost 20 years now. And whenever I bump into one of our alumni and they tell me that they've just become the director of, say, the Brussels Museum of Fine Arts, or the new spokesperson for the university hospital, I'm overwhelmed with a sense of pride and joy. I know it's not my achievement, it's definitely their achievement, but I'm, tremendously grateful for having had the opportunity to be part of that developmental process for those students, of having had the chance to mentor some of these highly talented people and, facilitate a part of their career.
Just having the ability to communicate with people more than anything, and people at different levels, whether they be students, colleagues, customers, just other professionals, and empathizing. I think empathy is really important, and just being able to understand and to listen. I've really had to work on my listening skills, and that's been a challenge because I like to talk. And so I think, yeah, the listening skills, the communication with others at different levels, networking as well, the writing piece as far as research, editing, and so on, presenting. Just the past 30 years has just been a whirlwind, and I think I've improved a lot as a business communicator through the years. I think I still have a long ways to go, because none of us, we're never perfect.
I probably consider my greatest achievement and my highest honor as actually serving as president of ABC. It was my privilege to serve when we held our first international annual conference in Ireland, and that was such a wonderful, wonderful conference and experience. I've also been blessed to receive some other awards through ABC, which is absolutely, just thrills and makes you realize what a wonderful organization it is. And it makes you feel so humble to serve alongside so many great people and to be recognized. I've been blessed to publish several 40, I think, articles or so on 3 textbooks. But probably my greatest accomplishment, I have to say, is probably back in the classroom for a number of years. When I first joined Kennesaw State University, we had a business communications course. And then at some point through curriculum revisions, it was taken off of the course, taken off of the curriculum. And so my dean approached me about adding some business communication content back into the curriculum through a course that was now required. When we had technology evolve into the importance that it now plays, that was when they decided they needed a technology course instead of a business communication course. My dean did come to me and he said, I want you to embed some business communication content and then to kind of write a textbook just for that course, which I did. And that relationship with my dean led to some other marvelous opportunities, which really revolved around communication skills. And he came to me and asked me to apply to become the chair of leadership and professional development, which was an interdisciplinary faculty team that taught exclusively in our executive MBA program. And from that, another door was opened where I was asked to apply to become the executive director of the Institute, Siegel Institute for Leadership Ethics and Character. And so I loved leading those endeavors where I could really work to embed the communication into the curriculum and into the courses that we taught. But I also think after serving in administration, I really wanted to go back to what I enjoyed the most, which was the classroom. And so nothing, I think, delights me more than when I receive an email or I get a little card from a former student who says, "Hey, Dr. Roebuck, at the time I didn't think I needed any of this, and why were you making me do this? And then now I'm using everything you taught me." And some of those go all the way back to the 1990s. And so that's where I think I know maybe I've made a difference in this world, because I've helped them understand that without communication, you are not able to really become an active member of your organization, of your family, of your society.
I guess the first one is the mentoring the young scholar. And last year, actually, one of my PhD students received an outstanding dissertation award. And her research also was published in 2 SSI journals, and before she graduated. I'm really very proud of that. The other one is for myself, and I have been very fortunate to receive several awards from ABC.
I would kind of break down my business communication career in terms of being an instructor and then also as a researcher. As an instructor, I think some of the things that I think all students would say they get out of my class, and which I focus on constantly, are honesty and credibility. So for me, that's really the foundation. All of my students know that that's going to come up over and over and over again. I think it's a winning recipe for being a great communicator. I really focus that on the interpersonal level, and then kind of similar to that on an organizational level, talk a lot about openness and transparency. So to me, those are really the guiding ethical underpinnings for all strong communication. I would also say that it's really important for me as an instructor to help people constantly think about what are the needs, the concerns, and the hopes of others. So if I can help people be more empathetic, I feel like I've been successful. And again, that's something that I try to do with all of my students. And then on top of that, just as a business communication instructor, I just think it's really critical to instill confidence in the students. I want them, when we're done with the class, to walk away feeling like they are a better communicator, they have the tools to improve, they're really eager to try things out, and they feel like they have that power within them. I want them to feel empowered. So as far as teaching, that's really where I go. Now, my research, I feel like the 2 areas that I feel most proud about are cross-cultural communication, and then also the role of technology in communication. And from a very, very early age, even when I was a teenager, I was very interested in the Chinese culture. And so I even see it as one of my main professional missions to kind of make a bridge between American and Chinese cultures. And I've done a lot of research about Americans and Chinese working together. And I think I can even be broader than that, just say Westerners and Chinese. But on top of that, I've always partnered with Chinese scholars in my research. And so if you look through my research, you'll see I probably have 20 co-authors who are Chinese. And every single one of them is a dear friend. I believe that we're contributing to an important mission together to kind of really build those relationships across cultures. So not only in content, but also in process. That focus on cross-cultural communication and the Chinese culture in particular. And then on the technology side, at least half of the research I do involves how does technology influence communication, whether it's a leader speaking with employees or within teams, even working externally. And that's just going to continue to take an an even more important role in business communication. I think I've made just kind of a sliver of a contribution in that area. And then I would just add everything that I do is cooperative and collaborative.
Well, my major achievement, I would say, is that I am a full professor in an English department, with my specialty being professional writing, and with my specialty within that specialty being business writing. It is professional writing is sort of a minority area of English departments, and it was largely because of ABC that I was able to work my way up through the ranks and become a full professor in my field and in my department. I actually got my job here at the University of Cincinnati on the strength of the business writing experience that I got as a doctoral student at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I was there in English, studying literature, but after teaching composition and American literature for several years on a graduate assistantship, I decided that I would look into teaching business and technical writing. It just so happened that the school I chose for my doctoral work was the headquarters of the Association for Business Communication at that time. It wasn't called that then, it was called the American Business Communication Association. But the headquarters were right there at the University of Illinois, and in fact, we're in the English department. So to try something new, I took a graduate course in the teaching of business and technical writing. My teacher was the wonderful Kitty Locker, who is one of the greats.
I guess the most important achievement was the students and also the people who were employees that I conduct training and consulting with over the years. And the impact that I hoped to have on these people was fourfold. First, I wanted them to appreciate the importance of good communication for their career success. And secondly, I wanted to help them improve their communication, both oral and written. The third thing that I hoped that I accomplished was that I instilled in them a need for lifelong learning, so that beyond the training room or the classroom, they would continue to grow, hopefully in their communication skills. And finally, I feel good about the students that I had who turned to a career in academia. I enjoyed mentoring those people so that, in fact, they would walk in my footsteps and take my place someday. In addition to the students and the trainees that I worked with, I feel that my major accomplishment is the books that I wrote, and I think that they will be a lasting legacy. In particular, I have a very successful textbook that is used in MBA programs called Managerial Communication Strategies and Applications. It's published by Sage, and it's in its 8th edition, which will be out in January of 2021. The other two books that I'm particularly proud of are published by Business Expert Press, and they were written for the trade market. One of them is called Get Along, Get Ahead, Get It Done. And the focus is on interpersonal communication and the importance of good interrelationships for achieving success. The other one was published last year, and it was aimed at project managers. It is called Project Communication from Start to Finish.
From my perspective as a linguist, I would say that business communication in the last 2 decades or so has become more central to some of the other academic disciplines. It's sort of infiltrated into some of these disciplines. I guess that sounds more strategic than I've meant it to be. What I'm trying to say is that you know, business communication has made some of the business topics more like interesting areas of expertise in their own right for other disciplines. Let me give an example. When I was writing up my PhD on press releases back in the 90s, a number of other linguists looked at me and, you know, they wondered if I couldn't find any more traditional sets of data, non-business data. They found it pretty odd for me to look at business data. Now, 20 years on, I guess there's a lot of linguists looking at business-related data, and few questions get asked. So I think that's, I'm not sure if it's really changed the discipline, but the discipline itself has definitely grown, and it's become more central to other academic disciplines.
We have so much more that's electronic. I mean, I started when we used typewriters. I never did learn shorthand. I was kind of right in the edge of when shorthand was not as popular anymore. So I never did learn shorthand, but typewriting, absolutely. You know, I still, the old things of double spacing and, you know, things like that, going with the typewriter. And having to learn how to communicate with the technology. And, you know, email, of course, started, gosh, it seems like it's been here all the time, but really we haven't had electronic communications for very long when you consider, you know, how long the world is. But the social media has changed a lot, everything having to do with how we communicate, to people's ability to debate with others, you know, getting on their soapbox, sharing, which is always nice, you know, friends and family and so forth. But also social media in things like hiring practices. You know, how do companies recruit? And then when they are interviewing candidates, do they look at their social media to help them determine if they should hire someone, or if people have been fired because of what they've posted on social media? So I think technology is the big thing.
Oh, now I get to date myself, I guess, because I actually started back in 1974, and that was the first year that I taught. And those were the days of snail mail and how to speak on the telephone. So we would teach telephone etiquette and how to write business letters and memos. And it's funny because actually a lot of the time it was called business correspondence, and it wasn't even called business communication. But then, of course, throughout the 1980s and 1990s, we kept hearing about this thing coming called the internet, where we would have a paperless office. And so here we are in the 21st century, and we're doing interviews through the internet, through this pathway that allows us to connect with each other 24 hours a day, follow the sun, and to be able to work remotely with others who are not sitting next door to us. And so the advancement, I guess, of technology and of the internet has just changed our whole world of communication. As I was thinking about this question, I remembered once, and, you know, I was thinking about how I just taught letters and memos in a few semesters ago. I was talking about memo format, and a student said, well, we don't write memos anymore. Memos are something that you write on paper. We do everything through email and, you know, attachments. And so I had to chuckle, because for them, you know, a memo is something that is of the past.
I think for the past 2 or 2.5 decades, we really see the business communication, the field has been changed quite a bit. I think one of that is technology driven. You know, nowadays everything is technology, so I really don't think I need to dwell on that. And then also become more globalized, you know, and I think this is a part of the the arising of the Globish and then the BELF or ELF. And so, the business communication is more focused on the intercultural international business communication. So the field really has been kind of drifted toward that direction. And also maybe, I would say probably moving away from the form or the rhetorical, because early years people, more concerned about whether the interlocutors have correct, grammars or whatever. But nowadays, I mean, you're talking about the interlocutors. A lot of times is non-native speakers talking to the non-native speakers. So more important is a communicative competence. They're able to communicate rather than whether they could produce a very accurate grammar type of the sentences. Of course, I'm not saying that the correct form is not important, but I mean at the international business context, I would think that being able to communicate, I think that's the priority.
I would say that the fundamentals are pretty much the same. To me, the fundamentals of business communication are, how do you really build relationships with other people in a professional environment? How do you find common interests? And so I think that's something that has been constant throughout the discipline's history. A lot of the things that we focus on are also remain fairly enduring. Thinking about how do you persuade people? How do you drive a strong team? Those are kind of are topics that have, I wouldn't say permanent, but principles that apply in many different situations, and over time that's the case. That said, technology is a huge change in business communication. Obviously, the tools that we use influence who we can talk to. So I wouldn't say that email was the new greatest thing 30 years ago, and now we're moving into more social forms of communication. And obviously everyone's on Zoom right now or other video platforms. They reduce the barriers to talking to people. And so that in of itself, removing barriers is profoundly, it's a profound change for how communication occurs. It makes the boundaries a little bit less clear. So that requires more sophistication on the part of leaders, managers, and professionals across the organization. And those are skills and that I think all of us business communication educators need to constantly stay on top of and think about how that influences the culture in which employees reside.
Well, as I mentioned, I believe I attended my first ABC meeting. I believe it was a Midwest meeting that was held in Rockford, Illinois in 1986. And when I first started coming to these meetings, there was quite a bit of, it largely consisted of sort of trading of war stories, if you will, of being in the classroom and what works for you, how do you teach grammar, how do you get students to do, understand this concept or that kind of thing, all of which is valuable, and a lot of which still goes on at ABC conventions. But we have become more research-based. We've had a lot of dialogue over the years about the importance of quantitative and qualitative research in our field. Our field needs that research, not only to inform our practice, but also to present ourselves to the academy as a bona fide discipline that does have an area of knowledge that and then methods to contribute to it. So that's been a very big change, is moving from sort of an informal, lore-based community to one that still values everybody's practical stories, but also values researched presentations and articles and books. So that's one. And then another huge thing that happened, just as salutary, maybe more so, is that we became international. When I first started out, there might have been one, I'm sure I'm wrong, but I can only remember one Japanese scholar who would come to our conventions. Maybe there were more people from non-US countries, but the association undertook a deliberate and massive effort to connect with business communication teachers and scholars around the world. And it turns out there are a lot of them. You know, other big changes have come to our field because of developing technologies, growth of online teaching, such initiatives as the diversity and inclusion movement, the influx of different generations. But in a way, amidst all these changes, we're still doing what we've always done, which is to help students, teachers, and employees choose and develop effective communication strategies.
Business communication is like a tree. It has many roots, and some of which are intertwined. For example, the origin of ABC was in the field of business English. In fact, in 1935, the beginnings of ABC were the Association of College Teachers of Business Writing. Another root of ABC is the field of office systems, where instructors of office systems would teach typing and shorthand and how to run office machines. Later on to how to word process, how to fax, and how to format business letters. A third root of our discipline is speech communication, and that's the one I came from. It involved group communication, interpersonal communication, as well as public speaking. With these deep roots and from various disciplines, our field has been able to flourish and to grow. And today we know that students and employers value the business communication, and the courses that we teach are very popular. There's one threat that I have seen persist over the years that I'd like to address, and that is that we have historically had trouble defining ourselves as a discipline, which I think is probably because of the many roots that we have. It's hard for us to decide which, if any, of these roots is more important. And as we struggle with this decision, I fear that sometimes we allow others to decide for us who we are. And for example, some employer institutions will decide that business communication should be a service and the courses that we teach should be non-credit. They don't see the value of a major or even a minor in business communication because it doesn't seem to be a full-blown academic discipline. And I think that it's important for us to recognize that we are a valid discipline with many roots, but we are a strong tree with many branches. That doesn't mean that we can't take our place in the forest. I think the solution for this threat is that we have to continue to conduct serious research, and that rigorous research should be done as frequently as possible with colleagues in other disciplines. And by working with them in fields such as finance and management, marketing, even information systems, banking, that they will then recognize who we are, what our contribution is, and realize that they need to respect our discipline.
ABC has benefited me greatly. And, you know, it may be a cliche, but the first thing I can think of here is the fact that ABC has given me these many interesting friendships, all right? To the extent that going to a conference has always been a bit of a roller coaster experience. Getting the opportunity to talk to so many friends, old and new, from all corners of the world, that sort of fills me with a sense of drunkenness, getting to know all these interesting, rich and inspirational people.
I think the networking, the colleagues, just having connections with people who are like family make a huge difference. When I have a question related to anything business communication, I know where to bring it. I bring it to a conference. I reach out to the executive committee, to former members. When I'm editing a document or something and have questions, same thing. Or even like right now, I'm in the process of editor-in-chief for Sage, and I had to assign authors to different modules, and ABC was my go-to source because I know where the experts are, I know what they know. And so I think ABC has been so beneficial in the networking component and in keeping abreast of what's happening in the field. The ABC business communication roundtables, discussions, panels, presentations, proceedings, they've all been very helpful in my career.
Wow. ABC has been my disciplinary home for many, many years. I think I shared when I gave my presidential address there in Ireland that Dr. Jean Voiles back I think it was in the 1980s, and I was working on my doctorate degree, asked me to help with the annual conference. And I don't think I knew at that moment the impact that this organization would have on my professional and academic life. I have been able to learn how to be a better teacher, where I have been made aware of the latest trends in research and in our field. And then I think probably the greatest honor throughout the years has been to be able to sit figuratively at the feet of those great business communicators who have been in our field and have transformed what it is that we do both inside the classroom as well as outside the classroom.
Since joining the ABC, I was exposed to interact with scholars, representing different academic disciplines, could be coming from the communication, intercultural business communication, the business and management, so it really broadened my perspective, especially in relation to the research area. And also, I have ample opportunity to have a joint research project. Indeed, through ABC, I was able to establish this, a joint research project, like with the Iris Varner and, a couple other members at the ABC. Also, I also be able to, because, ABC, part of the ABC is so good is about a lot of the ABC members are focusing on the teaching and pedagogy. So I was able to kind of like have the joint teaching related type of semester-long project with my students. So then through the telecommunication, my student would be able to team up with the students in the United States and go through this whole semester project. And in doing so, they actually have the first-hand, kind of hands-on experience to have intercultural business communication. On the other hand, I think it's also helped them in regard to the language, because even though Hong Kong English is a second language, but still comparing to the United States, especially with the Iris Varner's course in Illinois, is most, I think, is white Caucasian, unlike the San Francisco, because San Francisco is much more diverse. So I was able to do some, the teaching related semester-long project with the students. Also, I think that what ABC benefit my career is I had a privilege serving as ABC president between the 2015 to 16. So, of course, before that, as a 4 years commitment, I was starting as I was elected as a second VP and then first VP and then P and then past president. But before that, actually, I was the board of a director for a few years, and then also the regional VP for the Asia Pacific for 5 years. My second term, but I only served second term 1 year because I was elected as second VP going into the executive committee. Yeah. And also, I was be able to help the ABC with internationalization, and that's always my dream. And then also coming from the East, I really wanted to see ABC is as a kind of like a truly internationalized, globalized organization. So I have been really, kind of pushing that, and then, behind the scene. Try to get that materialized in terms of the internationalization.
In a huge way. I love ABC. I look forward to going to the ABC conferences every year. I try to get to about 2, if not 3 conferences every year. So I go to the international event, the regional events. I would call ABC my professional refuge, in that I feel like it's a place where people across the globe who are teaching business communication assemble. We share our best practices. We share our grief together, and there's plenty of that as well. But it's a place where when we get together, it's a chance to renew. And I've always felt that from the very beginning. So I absolutely love ABC in that regard. I would also just call it a place where you're going to always get a better idea. And one thing that I've always appreciated about the members in ABC is they are extremely student-oriented. And in that regard, you can go to any ABC event and you'll walk away with ideas about how you're going to influence your students in a better way. So I would say those are really, for me, the main benefits of ABC.
That we're in a discipline that doesn't really have an academic home, so our organization serves as our academic home. Main benefit, I would have to say, is that it has served as my disciplinary community over the last 37 years of my career. Business communication does not have a standard academic home. Sometimes we're in English, sometimes we're in business, sometimes we're in different disciplines in business, sometimes we're in communication, sometimes we're in maybe a rhetoric and writing department. So we sometimes have to struggle with how to be respected as a discipline, and also then to find people who are interested in the kind of work we're interested in. So you may be, for example, one of the 1 or 3 people in your department who teach business communication. But when you come to an ABC meeting, everyone teaches business communication. And you realize these are my people. This is my true academic home here, my community. So that is, I would say, has been the main benefit for me, and I bet most other ABC members would attest to that as well.
In particular, my ability to do research and to improve my teaching came primarily from the ABC journals. Those ideas came from my reading them diligently. Attending the conferences also gave me an opportunity to network with publishers, and that's how I got started in writing books. The conferences also gave me an opportunity to have fun with my colleagues around the world and to strengthen my network. And finally, there was the service of the job board and the job placement center. So ABC really played a primary role in my ability to be successful in my career. I'll give you one example of that. I didn't start into consulting as a side business until after I had sat in on a conference presentation, a workshop at one of the ABC conventions. It was run by the Association for Professional Communication Consultants. And those people who were also members of ABC helped me to understand step by step how to start and maintain a consulting business. They helped me to understand the importance, for example, of good business cards, not ones from the university, but for my particular business. They helped me to understand how to budget so that I could present my services in a contract with a reasonable price, and then how to write an invoice and collect my pay after I finish my consulting gig. They also helped me to find clients. Those very practical, down-to-earth things, I think, were only because I attended the workshops over the years at ABC conventions.